I'm Executive Director here at IMPEA. And I'm joined by my friends Mary McCoy and TJ Turner and Dr. Judy Bardonner from TJ and Dr. Judy are both from Marian. Um, and Want to first of all say thank you for taking time to be a part of this morning. As I looked at the faces, there seemed to be a lot more smiles on faces, and I'm assuming that's because this is spring break season. So hopefully you're either gearing into, you're on, or you just came off of spring break, which hopefully that's well needed for all of you. So we're glad that you're taking the time to join us this afternoon. About a year ago, I was approached by Representative Bob Baining, who also works at Marian University, about an initiative that Marian was going to be working on uh, dealing with pandemic learning loss and focused in reading in particular, and Orton Gillingham methodology in terms of addressing reading challenges. And I kind of thought this sounds interesting. I was familiar somewhat with Orton Gillingham, um, but I had no idea the interest that we were going to receive. Um, we have about 100 non-public schools participating in OG reading right now, tutoring about 1,200 kids. And thus far, I think the number we just received this week was 700,000 minutes of tutoring have been provided under OG reading. So that's about 8 hours per student. Um, Still collecting a lot of data, but anecdotally hearing a lot of positive comments about the impact that we're already seeing around OG reading. And I don't have to tell you all anything that you don't know, but there are challenges out there in terms of math performance. So it only seemed logical with the interest in OG reading that Marian came back and said they were going to pursue funding for OG math. And they did receive that funding. And so we're really excited today to be able to kind of share with you another opportunity for your students to help them grow and address any potential learning losses that they've encountered, not only in the pandemic, but just in general. We're going to go over the next probably 45 minutes or so, giving you some background information to help you make a decision whether or not your school or you as an individual want to engage in the OG Math initiative. And as I mentioned, I have experts on the call with me because I'm not the expert by any means. Mary McCoy and TJ, who really is kind of the program coordinator for a lot of these initiatives at Marian, and Dr. Judy, all three of them have already gone through the training that if you agree to participate, that you will go through. So they can even speak from firsthand experience in terms of what that training is like and what the benefits and the challenges are. But to kind of get a sense, it's always good to know who's in the audience, as we go. So we're just curious to find out how many of you or your schools are currently participating in OG reading, or maybe you're just now in finishing up this last training process. And so you're in the midst of training. So I'm going to share a poll question with you. And I think it's going to bring up both, which is not what I wanted to do, but just asking you to answer question one in terms of your participation with the OG reading program. There we go. And some folks are answering question two. Feel free to do that. We will address that a little bit later. Everybody have an opportunity to answer? I feel like I'm at the State House when we say, has everybody had your chance to vote? So what I'm seeing right now is just shy 48% of the folks on this Zoom. It kind of still jumping around a little bit. About 48% of folks have been involved in OG tutoring. 34% are not tutoring, and 19% are in the process of training. And we'll come back and visit the poll on the second question in just a minute. And with that said, I think I'm going to turn the microphone over to my good friend, Mary McCoy, who's going to kind of get us started with a little bit of background on OG math.
And before we do that, hi everyone, good to see you, or I'm glad you've decided to join us today. But John, if you change the slide, I think TJ is going to speak to this first slide, which is a part of a flyer that Marian has put together for OG math. There you go.
All right, hello again, everybody. So some of you already know me from OG reading. The training last spring was the first time you may have seen me, and since we've been talking a lot about the tutoring. So we are at the Learning Loss Recovery Program. We are part of the Marian University Center for Vibrant Schools, which is a new center to address the needs at your school, okay, to meet you where you are in your buildings and what you need. So we are pulling from a few different funding streams, one of them being the EANS 2. So that may be ringing some bells for you. We'll come back to that a little bit later. So Orton Gillingham Reading and Math, it's individualized, multi-sensory, intentional, sequential, cumulative, and incremental. So if you're familiar with OG reading, Marilyn at OG Academic Math really took those same philosophy, that same approach to apply it and make math instruction explicit, sequential, etc. So again, this is funded through the Center for Vibrant Schools. So if you were to sign on for the training is covered. And then if you were to continue on to tutoring, we can pay for the teacher stipends for tutoring. And with that, I'll hand it back to Mary to talk a little bit more about Maryland and OG Academic Math.
Thanks, TJ. So as John mentioned, myself, TJ, Dr. Judy have all participated in the OG Math, which was created by Marilyn Wardrop. And she is actually out of Canada. So we are working with an international speaker, an international trainer, and an international instructor. So just to keep that in mind as if you are interested in the training, that this is out of Canada. So as TJ said, it's a multi-sensory structured language approach. And with Marilyn being very familiar with OG reading and starting out in that area, she took those concepts and applied them to math and introducing, and it's really, it does target those students that are struggling with math, those students who may be dyslexic, but she created the course around, it's a very hands-on interactive approach. It's positive engagement with your students. It works well one-on-one. However, if you have a small group, you can adapt to that as well. It's active learning. It's, as you can imagine, lots of modeling through you as a tutor. A lot of seeing, saying, and doing math, seeing and saying again and doing math. Marilyn makes it clear it's not a quick fix. It's not something that's going to happen overnight. It takes a lot of practice and a lot of experience. Manipulatives are used, which we are happy to say that Marian will be able to provide a multisensory kit of manipulatives that Marilyn references in the training. It's a diagnostic approach, so there's assessing, you evaluate, you plan, you assess again, like we do with all of our good teaching in the classrooms. Prescriptive approach, it's an approach where the students not only see it and learn it, but then they understand it, they do it, they understand it. And it takes planning. It's lesson planning is involved. And as we all know, as educators, that in order to be successful in that classroom and show success with our kids, we truly need to plan and assess and plan by that assessment. And so it's ongoing assessment, and it's really has, you know, we're anxious, as John said, to see how it's going to look in the classroom and see how our tutors are able to use it. So John, if you want to go to the next slide, I can talk a little bit about the actual logistics of the course. So it is all asynchronous. So you are online participating in the course. It's designed for teachers who are often pressed for time. So Marilyn has done a great job with videos that are short. You know, if you happen to have a break, you might pull up the course and do a video. You might do one before school starts or right after school, or whatever fits with your busy schedule, because as we know, we all value every minute in those days. It's very capable of being completed over a 6-week period. As you can imagine, some of our overachievers will do it much quicker, or some may take longer. You have, from the date that you get registered, which TJ will talk about in a little bit here, you have a year to complete, or you have access to it. You will probably complete it within 6 to 8 weeks, but you have access to the course for a year. So again, you can go back and revisit those videos and even watch some of it again as Marilyn goes over some of the basic concepts. Another neat aspect of this course is that once you have completed it and you've been certified, then there's also some coaching and mentoring modules that are provided. And those are, you have access to those for a full year after you've completed the course. So those would be helpful as well. As you begin to get in the classroom and you begin to come across some challenges, or you're just stuck, or you just hit a wall, that coaching and mentoring, those modules will help. And I've watched the first one, and it seems very basic and very helpful. It talks about building those relationships with the kids and how to begin that tutoring. And of course, you can find some additional information at www.mathworksshops.com on Marilyn's website. And there's some introductory sample lessons that you can go into. Do not register for anything yet, because TJ will talk about that. But that's Marilyn's website, gives a lot of good information. There's research there. There's other resources that you just want to take the time to read through about how the OG math came about and how she has developed it into what it is today. That's a helpful place to start. So with that, John, I'll let you go to the next slide, which is TJ, I believe.
Hey, Mary, just one point. As you mentioned this in the chat, just to make sure everybody knows, this is being recorded, and both the recording and slides will be made available to you. Anybody who registered today, even if you ended up not being able to make it, will receive those slides and the recording. So just want to make sure everybody was aware of that.
Thanks, John.
Yes, I also want to mention that if you have questions as we're going, go ahead and put them in the chat. I've got one eye on the chat, and Mary is also helping me out there. So now that we've talked about OG academic math, I'll go a little bit into assessments. So one approved assessment so far, it's called the Early Numeracy Screener. It's out of Andrews University in Southern Michigan. And it's a very, very short assessment. So we don't want to micromanage, we don't want to pile on. So we're going to try to make sure these things are digestible in these chunks. So it takes their symbolic and non-symbolic skills, and it measures the child's ability to understand quantity. So it speaks well to that numeracy understanding. And with the coaching from Marilyn, we will also have professional development seminars throughout the year as we develop this and learn more. So we will be hosting a PD in June, date to be determined, and it will be Dr. Nosworthy going through her screener. That is a K3 screener, and everything that we are doing, we want it to be research-based, to be evidence-based. So Dr. Nosworthy, Dr. Ansari, this screener has been published. It is transferable and everything else. However, we, again, don't want to micromanage your schools. So for that reason, we can still do our assessment analytics using the assessments you already give. And John, I think this is the other poll. Do I pull that up or do you pull that up to reopen it?
I think John will pull it up.
Okay. Well, that's what that second poll was. Trying to get an idea of what assessments you already give in your buildings. And with some background information on those assessments, we can still compare your buildings internally and compare them to one another as well.
If you have not responded to that second question, please do so. Right now, we are showing that, of course, as we would expect, 65% of the respondents are using NWEA, 45% are using IXL, and about 29% are using DIBELS. And then the next one would be iReady with 10%. So as TJ said, it's critical that we're measuring growth. And there are some suggested assessments, but what's critical is that we are doing pre and post so that we can demonstrate that the grant funding that Marian is getting is producing results.
Yes, and with that, can we go to the next slide, please? So the Learning Loss Recovery Program, we can provide a paid out of school learning opportunity. So I know a lot of you are already doing the OG reading tutoring. So it must be out of school, before school, after school, weekend, or breaks. Do understand that attending the training is not an automatic commitment to tutoring. There's no way you could know your schedule between now and then, or if this is going to be right for the students in your building. So you can still take the training and then sign on for tutoring later on. So there is some required reporting, first being the student test number and the minutes tutored. Those two are required by the IDOE. And then for us here at Marian, it's also that pre and post assessment data that John was talking about. And again, we want to show growth. So one-on-one is preferred because you show the greatest gain, but small groups are fine. If you can target the lowest 20 to 25% in your building, if possible, that would be great. I understand you can't be perfect in that range because there are a lot of factors at play. It is out of school and not every family can commit to staying late or coming early, what have you. Oh, sorry, next slide, please. So the pay is $50 per hour up to 80 hours. And this will begin in the 22-23 school year, so no earlier than July. Tutors are paid as independent contractors, just like OG reading, and you'll receive a 1099 at the end of the calendar year, which I know is a little confusing because we're on a program year and the taxes are on a calendar year. The taxes are not taken out. You do have to claim them with the 1099. Right now, it is only paper check, but we are adding a direct deposit option. It is my plan for the direct deposit option to be in place before the math tutoring begins. So those of you who are on OG reading tutoring, you know how much trouble the paper check has been. So we are working to get that direct deposit option. And it will still be a monthly payment. And next slide, please. The training is asynchronous and only asynchronous. It does not have a synchronous option right now. There will be synchronous professional development. Dr. Nosworthy being the first, which we will also record so that you can get that asynchronous or review time later. On the first slide, I mentioned that EANS 2 was one of the funds that we're pulling from. So if your school has already turned in their EANS application and you're thinking, oh no, I didn't put OG math on there, do not worry. The Learning Loss Recovery Program is not coming out of your EANS 2 allocation. So I know Marian is an approved vendor for those 12 activities, but you do not need to list us under your allocation. At the end of your application, you just need to say, yes, I'm interested in OG math and reading. And there is another program here at the center called City Connects, which I won't get into today, but you can say, yes, you're interested in that as well. So once again, this is a training that the center is able to pay for. Okay, so the materials are provided. You do not have to worry about going onto Marilyn's site and self-registering or ordering her kit, because we will provide that through the Learning Loss Recovery Program. It does take a little while because of the, it has to go through customs and all that. So registration will begin the week of April 1st. I will put up a survey with all the required information, and then I will close that on April 17th. And from that, I will then send it on to Marilyn, and you will get a welcome email from OG Academic Math. And then it's going to take another 2 or 3 weeks after that for the kits to come. So you're looking at May. I still no questions in the chat. Chat is quiet. So I think I have one
Chat
more
is quiet.
slide. Chat is quiet.
Mhm.
Is
Really,
the registration to train or start tutoring? The registration April 1st is only to get trained. I have not opened up any sort of tutoring for fall yet, for next school year yet. The only thing I've opened up is summer school. So if you're already doing OG reading, you can still do summer school with reading, and then you just can start with math once that opens up in July. Did that answer your question, Erin?
I think so. Yep.
Yes, thank you. Awesome. Oh, and the last slide is questions. Did I get all of them?
I think so.
Okay. Sorry, I'm looking at 2 screens here.
Any questions that you did not share? Here comes another chat question, I think.
Do tutors need to be school employees?
I would think
Would think so.
yeah, I would think from a liability perspective, probably so. That's, you know, we've had questions in the past whether somebody can tutor from home and things like that, but because of, you know, it needs to be school sponsored, you know, and I don't know that that's come up before, but I think off the cuff response would be yes, right?
Yes,
Marian?
I would agree. So, and also just a reminder, I think we said, you know, tutoring needs to be in person, face to face, because it is, a lot of the money is coming from the 1008 grant. So that's one of the requirements. And it needs to be in your school building. Again, as John said, liability reasons and also in your school building with a paid employee. It doesn't have to be a licensed teacher. It could be an instructional assistant. It could be, you know, someone working in your cafeteria or someone working with students, you know, outside of the classroom, but it needs to be someone employed by your school. Yes. Tutoring can begin in July. I think someone asked that. As TJ said, just a reminder that registration is going to be from April 1st to April 17th. And that's not you registering yourself on the site. That's you giving the information to TJ, because TJ needs to do the registering with Marilyn. So don't self-register, because TJ won't be able to refund your cost for that. TJ needs to do all the registration. So, and then, so that's between April 1st and April 17th, and seats are going to be limited. I mean, so don't wait until the last minute and try to register. If you truly have teachers that are interested in registering, hit that deadline between the 1st and the 17th, because I foresee math filling up quickly. We've had a lot of interest, a lot of questions. There's 150 people that just registered for this today. So there's a lot of interest out there. So don't wait. And on the 19th, call John or me and say, hey, can we still get in? Because seats may be full. I know there will be another opportunity in July for, correct, TJ, for those
Correct.
that might want to be trained in math in July and maybe not right now in the spring. But if you've got some ANSI teachers or anyone in your building that is ready to be trained, get them registered in April.
Lots of good questions.
Lots of
popping
good
up in the
questions.
chat.
Someone asked how many PGP is this worth? I just double checked in my EANS 2 application, and this will be 46 PGP, just like the reading. Once you're trained, is that indefinitely, or do you need to take a refresher if you don't start tutoring right away? Mary and Dr. B, I'll let you take that one.
Yeah, we kind of brought this up and discussed it and never really came up with a solid answer on that. So at this time, Aaron, I would say it's indefinitely, at least for the first year, you're going to have access to the course and you're going to have access to those mentors or the coaching and the mentoring. So at this point, we don't foresee having to be retrained.
You know, and that's basically the way we handled the OG reading. If somebody was
Correct.
trained in the past, that was acceptable.
Yeah.
So we would assume that would be the
Yes.
same for OG math.
Correct. That's how it worked for OG reading. So I'm going to do the same for math. Now, folks in this state are not already trained for math, but in the future. And as Mary said, you do have access to that course. So if you sign up for April to start the training, and then you finish it like that at the start of summer, but then you don't start tutoring until next winter break or something, that is okay, because you'll still have access to the course for a refresher for that year.
Correct.
Janet asked,
Yeah, can the tutor be one of our regular substitutes as long as the tutoring happens outside of school time? I would say yes, that would be fine, unless John or TJ feel strongly against that.
no, I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, and I think everybody understands that we're very cautious of double dipping, and that's why it's got to be outside of when that teacher is being regularly paid by you to instruct during your school day, and that's why the outside of school time is important.
Could this work for a summer school?
Okay, I'll let you read the questions. I'll answer so that we
Could
don't
this
do
work
that.
for a summer school program, TJ?
Yes. However, remember the math tutoring won't really start until July. So that's a little short for summer school this year. If you're thinking summer school 23, that's a little far ahead for me. I don't know where we will be as far as paid hours that I can approve. It all has to do with their interest. Now, if you're setting up your own summer school program and you love this curriculum and you're able to compensate your teachers, all that internally, I'm never going to say no. And I ask that you keep me in the loop about that, so that if for whatever reason we're not funded again, I can say, hey, people love it, let's do it again.
Can other teachers who did not sign up today also sign up for the training?
Yes. So if they want to watch the info session recording, or if you're watching the recording right now and you still want to sign up, that's fine. So registration will open April 1st. So Tamara, just make sure you get this information session recording to your teachers in time, get the websites to them in time so that they can preview it and decide if it's right for them.
How can we learn more about the program itself before we register? Did you say there are sample lessons on Maryland's website?
Yes, there are. So you can go to mathworkshops.com, and she has an about section. And when you get to the end of the about section, there is a free course talking about the foundations of OG academic math. Underneath that free course is the paid course. Do not sign up for the paid course. I cannot reimburse you. If you take the free course, if you read the website, decide it's good for you, register through me, and then I can sign you up, but I cannot reimburse.
How many training spots will be available, TJ?
It depends on if you're EANS 2 eligible or not. For April, there are going to be about 200 spots total. For July and beyond, I'll have more opening up. We have just under 150 here today. So I think we'll be able to get the folks who are interested this spring. If something changes, I will ask Sam, our Director of Communication here at the center, to put it on the Marian Center for Vibrant Schools website.
Will OG math tutoring include all grade levels K through 8?
So Carol, the skills are computational. So for some of those upper grades, it may not feel appropriate unless the child is very behind. But Maryland uses this with all grades, depending on the ability and need of her student.
Mm-hmm.
So don't feel like it cannot be used with an 8th grader who is struggling. Something we haven't mentioned yet is that she will have an algebra skills course in the future. That is not available for registration yet, but we are staying in touch with her for anyone who is interested, and we will stay in touch with you. John and Mary have been wonderful liaisons with the non-public schools, and we'll get that information to you when it's available. The algebra would definitely be applicable to your 7th and 8th graders.
I assume we only tutor current students at our school. Thanks. Yes,
Yes.
current students at your school. Now, if there's yeah, let's just leave it at that. Let's leave current
Yeah.
students at your school.
But you
Current
need
students
the
at your school, if
STN
there's
number.
you have to get the STN number. That's required reporting. Now, Courtney, if there's a specific student you have a concern about, I'll put my number in the chat. Maybe we can connect one-on-one about that. I do have some where, you know, maybe siblings go to different schools, so someone tutors the siblings. I have very special cases like that, but remember, you have to get the STN and it has to be school sponsored. So in general, yes, students in your school, it's easiest. You don't have to worry about anything else.
Yes.
Um,
When can a teacher sign up for OG reading?
OG reading. So this info session is only for OG math. It kind of broke my brain a little bit with reading. Let me think about that. Look at I have my calendar here. So the synchronous training closes up next week, and the asynchronous training, I will have more seats for the asynchronous training at the start of April. So
TJ, what
Shocker.
about the July session?
For
The OG reading, the one that's available, open for non-pubs that first week or so in July, whatever it is.
Yes,
yes,
so
I have
it-
not opened that
yeah,
one
I
yet.
will give you a list, I think.
Yeah, we've
it-
already been in touch about your list, me, you, and
Yeah, yeah.
Jillian. So you're all
Yeah.
good. You're all good. So no, you're not, you don't have to worry about what I just said about April. Now that I see your face, you and I have already talked about it. So get me your list, what we
Okay.
said in our meeting last week.
I appreciate, I know it's a lot of work for you guys, so I really appreciate the effort you put in.
Well, we're glad we can facilitate this and get this to your building.
Okay, TJ, does it have to be 2 hours a week and not 4? Question.
Oh, I'm very excited that you are excited. But when we wrote the grant, when we wrote the proposal, we had to kind of come up with an average. And so 2 hours per week for 10 months came out to about 80 hours. That is what everyone is approved for when they start tutoring at the start of the school year. If you want to change that up, like there's some weeks you're not doing tutoring, so you want to do 4 weeks the other week, that's fine. But essentially the pool is not unlimited. All right. It's a big pool. The state has been very generous to the center and to get this to you guys because everyone at the IDOE is ready to address the learning loss. Even before COVID really exacerbated it. But it's not unlimited. So 2 hours a week is the approval upfront.
Where do they go to sign up on April 1st, TJ?
I will have the registration from this Zoom information session. So I will just send it to everyone who is at this meeting today. I will also make sure it's on the Marian Center for Vibrant Schools website, which you can go to marian.edu/CVS, like the store. So I will work closely with Sam to make sure that link stays on the website as well.
And TJ, Mary and I will send that out to the IMPEA members as well.
Great.
The free course you're talking about, is this under course packages or is it under the builder package? Wait, I think I found it. Online academic, yes, that's it. Online academic math basic training concepts.
Yes.
Are you committing to 80 hours during the year or can it be less?
It can be less.
Mhm.
It can be less. So the folks who can't do the full 80 hours, I give some of their hours to the folks who are chomping at the bit to do 4 hours a week. That's how I do it on my end.
And there's the website, marian.edu/CVS that TJ put into the chat box for your reference. Did I get them all, John? Did it look like?
You did. I mean, Scott had some questions about volunteers, and Scott, that may be something you want to reach out to us individually to to talk about if there are regular people in your building. We may just have to have some kind of a liability waiver or something like that. I don't know, but reach out individually to, and our contact information emails are up on the screen for you now. If there's anything that we did not address, wait, I see a couple more coming up. Oh no, it's TJ's.
Just TJ's information, yeah.
Yeah, Scott,
Yes.
if they're subs, if they've been paid by you, then you're fine.
You're fine. And then they can join the before after school tutoring if they're already subs, because then we don't have to worry about the liability thing. That's already covered by the fact that they substitute at your school.
Any other questions? Dr. Judy, I'm not going to pick on you, but anything you'd like to add? I guess I am picking on you since you're on the call.
All right. Hello, everyone. I just did a refresher on the math and I'm very impressed. I think that it's really valuable. It gives a wonderful basis for students to move along in their math understanding. And we will be offering more professional development for the higher level grades. So this is good. This is a great foundational piece. I think you'll be very happy with it. It takes a bit to get into module 1 where the videos are. But once you get into module 1, you'll really start appreciating it. And they also do a wonderful job, Marilyn does, providing a sample lesson how-to that you can see, a 45-minute lesson. And that's a demonstration lesson that you'll really appreciate and see exactly what it should look like.
And provides lesson planning lessons as well, and how that lesson plan is broken up to the 15-minute chunk here, the 15-minute chunk here. So she really does do a nice job in laying it out for you.
Yes, and I just want to echo what Dr. B said about the ongoing PD for the upper grades. She's already reached out to a few different organizations for that. So right now, the only one we have a commitment from is Nadia, Dr. Nosworthy, for the early numeracy screener, but you will be invited to those seminars whenever we're able to schedule them. So whoever was asking about the upper grades, 8th graders and so on, you will be invited to those seminars when they're available.
One last question. Can it be one teacher and one student? Absolutely.
One-on-one is preferred.
Yes, yes.
John, you're muted.
I said, and I would use whatever your local school's protocols are in terms of liability, safety kinds of issues. You know, so take that into consideration as well. The actual tutoring one-on-one is ideal, but depending on what your own protocols and where that occurs and that kind of stuff, I would rely on your principals to guide you in that area. Any other questions?
That's all I see in the chat box right now, John.
So as we move and let you all return to your spring break or go on spring break or whatever, be looking for a follow-up email with the recording and slides from us. And then April 1st from TJ, you'll receive a survey that will serve as your registration for training. And that has to be in by the 17th so that she can submit that to Canada and get that information logged in there, and so we can get materials and things on the move. You have our contact information there. Feel free with questions you have in the interim. Don't hesitate to reach out to any of us. If we don't know the answer, we'll make sure we find out the answer. And I see one more question.
Do we still need to have one person be a team leader while we are doing for OG reading? That's a good question. TJ, I thought we were asking for team leads as well. Is that correct?
It depends on the size of the team and how many are trained in your building. But yes, if you are, for next school year, when you're tutoring, if you have a large cohort in your building, you can have a team lead. Bye, Bob.
Anything else? Well, folks, thank you for joining us. This has been an exciting partnership. The OG Math has just taken off like wildfire, and at least what we've seen in the interest in the OG information session today. I think math is going to follow suit as well. Appreciate it. Hopefully, if this is something that's benefiting you and your students, then we're doing a job well done on our end. So thanks again. Don't hesitate to reach out with additional information and watch for the follow-up coming from us. Take care, everybody.